Vincent Chin, Joseph Iledo, David Cao, Balbir Singh Sodhi, Jin Tun Wan, Minghui Yu, Fong Li. They lived as they were, and they died because of who they were, and only that. So again, good afternoon on this very beautiful day for all of us and our queer brothers and sisters out there celebrating Pride. We come together to bring today's conversation to a very local level and to allow you to get some of your thoughts out. If you don't know these folks now, you will know them by the end of today's program. I'll be giving a shorthand profile on these individuals from what I've been able to glean on the interwebs, whatever. And you can most certainly reference your program for more information. To my left, I have Miss Angela Chan, who is a staff attorney managing the Criminal Justice Reform Program at the Asian Law Caucus in San Francisco, one of the nation's oldest legal and civil rights organizations serving the low-income Asian and Pacific American communities. Ms. Chan's work has been tempered early, at a very early age, in a Portland, Oregon neighborhood of immigrants and white working-class folks, where she saw the barriers of language, culture, racism, and xenophobia. And it was there that she realized that there was not a lot of power and awareness. And one more quote to welcome her. I've tried different ways of challenging inequality, direct confrontation, anger, but I've found the best way is through policy and being very educated and strategic. Folks, Ms. Chan. Next to Ms. Chan is Mr. Vincent Pan, who is the Executive Director of Chinese for Affirmative Action, a long-time community-based social justice organization here in San Francisco. A longtime community advocate and activist, I'd like to share a piece of Mr. Pan's vision, quote, "I believe in a world that works for everyone, where social justice is not only defined by our laws, but by a broader and shared ethos that never stops challenging us to be more compassionate, more inclusive, and more fair-minded." Let's welcome Mr. Vincent Pan. To his left is Ms. Ling Wu Liu, who is the first director of the Fred T. Korematsu Institute for Civil Rights and Education, which is a program at the Asian Law Caucus. The Korematsu Institute has played an instrumental role in passing California's Fred Korematsu Day, which will be observed again on January 30th. The first observation happened in 2011. Ms. Liu, already a strong advocate for the voiceless, is probably one of the more insightful advocates for Asian Americans' cause célèbre NBA player Jeremy Lin. In a past op-ed piece in CNN, Ms. Liu connected Lin's importance to the still recent tragedies of Private Danny Chen and Lance Corporal Harry Liu. Please welcome Ms. Ling Liu Wu. Last but certainly not least, Ms. Sarah Biliu, who is the Executive Director for the Council on American Islamic Relations, San Francisco Bay Area chapter. If you go to YouTube and you search for Zara Biliu, you will undoubtedly find an extensive collection of panel videos, some that she moderates, others that she is a part of, and in nearly all of them, you will find no other sure-footed speaker on civil rights in the time of surveillance than Ms. Biliu. Among my favorites is a direct action at Lowe's Home Improvement and Appliance Store. Yeah, I dug deep. At the time that they decided to pull their advertisements from the reality show All American Muslim. Also, my general favorite is her respectful snubs towards the FBI anytime a panel video is being streamed on the web. Check those out. So let's please welcome Ms. Zara Biliu and the rest of the panelists. All right. So why don't we just start off and just warm up everyone and the crowd and just very shortly, address when did you hear in your life about Vincent Chin and how his story politicized you, how that was part of your that process. Well, we can just go down the row.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. So thank you, first of all, for having us here. Thank you to Mike Kwan for organizing this, for APA for Progress, and for RJ for those really awesome introductions. You did dig very deep. I'm impressed. I first heard about it in high school. I did go to a high school in Portland, Oregon, that wasn't very diverse, and I don't think there was anything in our history books about it. I only heard very vaguely about it, and I really learned the real story in college when I moved to Los Angeles, to Occidental College, where there was much more ethnic studies at Occidental College, and I heard about that story, and it made me very angry. I think the feeling in this room from watching this documentary is a feeling of anger and of an unresolved pain. So that's really my gut reaction to it when I heard about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it isn't something that the story isn't something I've always known, but I don't remember when I first learned about Vincent Chin. It may have been in offhand conversations with my older brother, who's just a few years older than me. And, I think that I began to understand the importance of it when I first read Frank Wu's book, Yellow. And I think there was so much in that helped connect the dots to make it meaningful in a different way.
First of all, I want to thank Cam. I want to thank Mike Kwan for organizing this. The first time I heard about the Vincent Chin case was when I watched Who Killed Vincent Chin. Actually, it was, I think, toward the latter part of my undergrad years. And I remember, for those of you who are Cal grads, the Media Resource Center, I remember stumbling out of that library and literally just being completely just disoriented because I could not believe what I just saw. That moment stays with me in the work that I do. I think this is a little bit relevant to the question that RJ has asked, but there are many people that all of us know who have never heard of Vincent Chin, so I have a call to action. For those of you who are on Facebook, I know many of you are, I implore you to Facebook or to tweet something today to the effect of, do you know who Vincent Chin is? And maybe put a Wikipedia link there or some other link, link to Asian Pacific Americans for Progress or the Vincent Hu film, because there's so many people within our own networks that we can educate.
I like that Ling started off her piece with a call to action. And I absolutely agree. Thank you to all of you for being here, to the organizers for hosting this event. So I'm a little embarrassed to admit that I didn't know who Vincent was until 2010. And the only reason I found out was because I was invited to speak on a panel about Vincent Hu. And I thought, Vincent Hu? And so, but to me, it was, when I did learn about the story in 2010, it was a reminder. So often when we're working on the issues that we work on, we work in silos, right? Like, if it doesn't affect me, if it doesn't affect our community, then I don't know about it, and I don't have time for it. And it's funny because in my silo, Islamophobia is so bad, and it's like the worst thing in the world, and nothing else is happening. And so I need these reminders as an activist to draw the connections between communities, that the hate that targets one community is quite often the same that targets many others.
Great. All right. So I think one of the lasting themes of the film definitely addressed a call to action. How have the groups that each of you has been a part of, how have those campaigns manifested to dialogue with the legacies of hate crimes and just coalition building to combat just overall this culture of race mongering, religion mongering, hate mongering?
Well, I think it's all part of a continuum, and the reality is people enter into that continuum in different ways. Some people, because of history and because of learning about an important story or an event, and then many people enter into that continuum because of something that's happened to them directly, because of challenges they face in finding justice in their own lives, and that history piece maybe comes later. But I think the overall thread of the work has to understand both the things that we've learned to do well and the things that we've learned don't work so well. So if we look at the civil rights groups that have been around for a while and continue to fight in many ways some of the same challenges that we've been fighting for 30 years, there's an important piece about how and why we've arrived at this notion of trying to create some solidarity or some unity. And it is not just because it's a nice thing to talk about, right? That there is, there's some fundamental effectiveness questions that, force us to think about, how we can not just feel good about the work, but actually create the type of changes that we want. And I think you see that more and more in many leading edge organizations who are trying to get at this radical notion of inclusion that understands identity, whether race or gender preference. They're pathways, right? They're pathways to get us to something bigger. That's about what we stand for, right? And not just what we look like or how we identify. And both Helen and Norman put that, I think, so well in different ways. But that, hopefully the movement, the thread is that we're bringing people into this idea of like the Asian American, the Asian Pacific American community as a notion, as a community of conscience, right? And I think that our organizations have to keep that at the forefront no matter how people enter into the story.
So at the Asian Law Caucus located in Chinatown, San Francisco, you're welcome to come visit our office sometime. We've been doing anti-hate crime work for decades, but our approach to it has changed and evolved quite a bit. So I want to just briefly talk about that because I think it gives a different perspective, perhaps, about the Vincent Chin case. So imagine if in the Vincent Chin case, instead of a courtroom, instead of decades of work trying to get convictions and as long of prison time as possible for the offenders, imagine instead of the courtroom if you had actually Lily Chin, his fiance, and the community impacted in a room with the two offenders, having the offenders already have admitted that they were wrong and having the discussion be about the harm that was caused to the community and having the offenders actually sit there and have to listen to it, come to an understanding, and then agree to how they will try their best to address the harm they've caused both to Vincent Chin's family and also to the community. So that's a different way of doing things. That's called restorative justice, and it really is an alternative to our criminal system. The Asian Law Caucus used to focus a lot on the perpetrator that committed the crime and calling for kind of a similar type of justice of prosecution and prison time. But because of the criminal justice program at the caucus that came together about 5-6 years ago that looked at the other side of things. It looked at Asian juveniles committing crime, sometimes Asian juveniles beating up African American youth and Latino youth in what could be categorized under the law as a hate crime. We were dealing with the language access and cultural competency piece of the juvenile court. We started learning a lot more about all the flaws in the criminal system and how we basically can't resort to using the criminal system as the solution to our problems. It doesn't resolve that feeling of anger that I described, that feeling of unresolved pain, because the court system doesn't really give a chance for the victims to express what happened to them and for the perpetrators to really face what they did. There's things like lawyers that really stand in the way and do all the talking. So that's what our newest approach to do these things. I find it to be a very interesting lens to look at the Vincent Chin case.
So as RJ mentioned, the Korematsu Institute is a program of the Asian Law Caucus. We're founded after a man named Fred Korematsu, and one of the main programs that we work on is that we develop and we distribute free teaching kits about Fred Korematsu's story, about the Japanese American incarceration, and about how all of that part of history ties to current civil rights issues. In all of the kits that we send out for free to any teacher in the country, we always tie in post 9/11 and just contemporary civil rights issues. There's a graphic novel in each one of our kits. It's a little cartoon booklet about a Muslim schoolgirl. She's an elementary school student who's bullied at school, and she's having a hard time. So she goes home and actually ends up talking to her neighbor, who is a Nisei, a Japanese-American woman, and the woman tells her the story of Fred Korematsu, which inspires the young girl to face her oppressors at school and basically have the courage to speak up. So that's one of the ways, RJ, you asked us to elaborate on some of the ways that we work on coalition building. But I also think that people learn in different ways, and so we always have multimedia components of our curriculum. We also do outreach efforts for adults alike. Another program that we put on is a film festival called Rights Fest, which is a civil rights film festival that moves to different different cities each year, and it always has a pan-ethnic theme. What we're doing this year is a special focus on civil rights and sports documentaries. And since you already outed me for being I'm not even a hidden Jeremy Lin fan, but yes, I will admit that the idea behind this year's particular theme, civil rights and sports, was 100% attributed to my insomnia during, I would say that first or second week of February. But I just thought, here we have a moment when you've got a major Asian American celebrity who has taken the stage. And, you saw a lot of moments in the media. The ESPN headline, there were a lot of other, I think it was, there was a boxer who had some terribly racist statement also. But there are a lot of common themes that certainly not only the Asian American community face. So what we're doing is that we are screening potentially an excerpt about a forthcoming Jeremy Lin film, also alongside a film about Jesse Owens. Jesse Owens was an Olympic track runner who had to compete in Germany under Hitler. He also, I think he went to school in Ohio. He had to live in segregated housing, and yet he prevailed, and despite all these challenges. So that's one of the ways that we always make sure to bring audiences to our events, or to bring audiences to learn about issues that they would not otherwise gravitate toward. You can imagine that if we screen a film about Wat Misaka, the first NBA player of color in 1947, you're probably going to get a lot of Asian Americans to come out to that. But if we screen that alongside a film about the first Latina boxer to compete in the Olympics this summer, you're going to kind of cross promote and basically learn things that you otherwise wouldn't have taken the time to learn.
I think for CARE and for many in the Muslim American community, coalition building around hate crimes isn't an option. It's not a choice. It's something that we do, and it's a sad reality that's driven by the fact that so many of the victims of anti-Muslim violence are not Muslim, right? So many Sikh men have been targeted. The first hate crime victim to die post 9/11 was a Sikh man who was mistaken for Muslim. The perpetrators of hate violence are stupid. I mean, they can't even tell the difference, right? And so how does it, how could we sit on the sidelines and not speak up when a Sikh person is mistaken for Muslim, when an Asian person is targeted for really their own skin color? And so there's that. There's also the issue of the fact that, again, I said this during the national panel, our individual communities are really small. I mean, even as we're growing, we're so small. Depending on who you ask, there are anywhere from 3 to 9 million Muslims in the United States. That's not very many. And so we recognize that power must be built together, that to speak out collectively makes us stronger in that unified voice. There was something else, and I'll say it later because it just flew out.
Feel free to interrupt me if it comes back. All right.